Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, completely aware, but you can't move a muscle? You feel a presence in the room, maybe a weight on your chest or a shadow lurking in the corner of your eye? Well, you are definitely not alone. For centuries, this has been humanity's terrifying little secret. And today, we're going to unmask the visitor we all seem to know.
This is the heart of it, isn't it? It's a story told a million times in every language imaginable. That sudden, jarring wakefulness, the suffocating paralysis, and that absolute gut-level certainty that something else is in the room with you. It is a moment of pure primal fear.
So this feeling, this visitor, it's so common that it actually has a name. And no, it's not just a ghost story, even though it's probably inspired thousands of them. It's a very real, documented neurological event.
And that's the core of the terror right there, that disconnect. Your mind just flips on, but the signal telling your body to move, it's still offline. You're basically a prisoner inside your own body, which is still fast asleep. It's this profound helplessness that really sets the stage for everything that comes next.
Now, what's really wild is that this is not some new thing, tied to modern stress or looking at our phones too much. Oh no, this is one of humanity's oldest and most universal nightmares. We've been trying to explain this visitor for as long as we've been telling stories around a fire.
And this just illustrates the pattern perfectly. Look at the similarities here. It's incredible. In old Europe, they called it the old hag, some kind of demonic woman who sits on your chest and steals your breath. In Japan, it's kanashibari, which literally means to be bound in metal, often by a spirit. And today, we tend to call them shadow people, those dark, featureless figures that just stand there watching you. Different names, different cultures, same terrifying script.
So yeah, this is not just a coincidence. This is something fundamental, something wired deep inside all of us. We've all been having the same biological experience for thousands of years, and we just keep dressing it up in the costumes of our local myths and legends. The real question is, what is that biological event? To understand the shadow in the room, we have to look inside the brain. See, the answer isn't in some ancient book of demons. It's in the delicate and sometimes glitchy transition between being asleep and being awake. Okay, so let's break this down. It's basically a three-step glitch. First, you have something called REM atonia. During REM sleep, your deepest dream state, your brain paralyzes your body. So you don't literally try to fly when you're dreaming you can fly. Sometimes, your mind wakes up before that paralysis switch gets turned off. Step 2. Your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, absolutely freaks out. It senses you can't move, assumes the worst, and floods you with pure terror. And then, step 3. Your brain, now panicked and still half dreaming, desperately tries to find a reason for this fear and paralysis. So, it creates one. It generates a hallucination.
This is the perfect metaphor for what's happening. You're literally caught in a doorway between two worlds. Your eyes are open, you can see your real bedroom, but the bizarre logic of the dream world is still running in the background, projecting a character into reality to explain the terror that your body is feeling.
So the science explains the paralysis, it explains the fear, and it even explains why we hallucinate. But it leaves one really big, fascinating question unanswered. Right? Why not a giant floating teacup or a swirling vortex of colors? Why, across all these different cultures and all of human history, does the brain's self-generated explanation so often take the form of a menacing, human-like figure? The answer tells us something truly profound about how our minds are built.
The reason we see a person is because our brain has a kind of default setting for fear. It is, by its very nature, an architect that builds a very specific kind of threat when it's put under pressure.
So here it is, the final piece of the puzzle. Our brains evolved to have what's called hyperactive agency detection. It was a survival skill, right? To always assume that a rustle in the grass was a who and not just the wind. During sleep paralysis, that instinct gets cranked up to 11. You combine that with pareidolia, our tendency to see faces in clouds or figures in the static, and your brain is primed to interpret any random noise or shadow as a person. So when your panicked mind screams, "something is here," the default template it grabs from its files is a humanoid shape. It's our brain's most basic stand-in for an other.
And this really brings us to the most important takeaway. The shadow man, the old hag, the kanashibari, they aren't ghosts invading your bedroom. They are ghosts generated by your own mind. That figure is an internal blueprint, an ancient, preloaded template for threat that your brain projects outward to explain a feeling of pure terror. In a way, that makes the myth psychologically true.
So it leaves you with this one final lingering thought. If our minds are powerful enough to construct such a vivid, universal, and terrifying figure out of nothing more than fear and shadow, it shows they aren't just passively observing reality. They are active architects of it, which really makes you wonder, what else are they building for us, just out of sight?